Hi everyone and welcome to the OklaRoots YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we're gonna make something that's so fast, so scrappy, so fun, and super useful. I actually took it on vacation recently and I used it like most of every day. Today we're making a key fob wallet and this pattern comes to us from Sewgnar. Now, Sewgnar, in my opinion, is kind of known for their patterns that are raw edge and are great for beginners, but also incredibly practical. Now this little guy here might not seem like much, but I'm gonna tell you, my family and I went down to Universal Studios recently. I'm the mom, I have to carry everybody's things. So we had room keys, we had passes, we had gift cards we were using, I had my ID, things like that. I had everything, cash, a little good luck charm that I kept with me. I had everything in this little sucker and it was so easy. I had this and I had like a little fanny pack and I just whooped this out. Easy peasy. I love this guy so much. So let's go through it. It is a nice small little wallet. It has a magnetic snap. You could definitely use like a cam snap plastic clasp if you wanted. When we open it up, on one side over here we have a clear pocket. You could also use mesh material, but I would suggest using a clear vinyl. I really like it. And then on the other side, we have a slip pocket, and then we have 1, 2 card slot pockets. And then on the back, we have a teeny tiny zipper pocket. You might not think this is that useful, but I'm gonna be honest, it is. It's definitely enough to hold your change and things like that if you happen to have any. We're also making an adorable little key fob. The key fob for this, I'm actually gonna be diverging away from the pattern. I'm using a template from Heartwood and Hide, so I'll have more about that in the video. It's a very, very useful template, especially if you're going to be doing like pattern placement on your key fob. We're gonna play with that today. I have a vinyl that I have a very specific pattern placement I want on the outside, so we're gonna see how that works with the template. So thank you so much to Sewgnar, as always, for allowing me to feature your patterns on the OklaRoots YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out their website, please make sure you go and do that. We've done a few of their patterns before, and the pattern, the size and the difficulty varies quite a bit. Many of them are raw edge, many of them are quick, scrappy, easy, smaller, like this one here. However, if you want to get into some more in-depth wallet ones, if you want to get into more bags, those options are available as well. If you see a pattern on there that you'd like to see on the OklaRoots YouTube channel, make sure you leave a comment down below and I'll add it to my list. The Sewgnar is a go-to pattern writer for me personally when I'm just kind of like don't have inspiration, when I don't have any sojo and I just like I want to make something but I don't really want to make something. That's where I go. I go to Sewgnar and I whip up one of these little bad boys and now like I'm ready to sew anything. I'm ready. Give me the big bags. If you're new to the OklaRoots YouTube channel, please consider clicking subscribe down below. If at any point you like this video, please give it a like. Any questions, comments, shout outs, anything at all, leave them down in the comment section. All right guys, this is gonna be a quick one. Let's get started. So this pattern is very scrap friendly. You can use a fat quarter of material, you can use a lot of different scraps, which is what I'm gonna do. So we're just gonna dive right into all the pattern pieces and then the hardware and things like that. So to start with the pattern pieces, you're gonna have one cut of material that's going to be the main body piece. And this is what you're gonna see on the outside. So if you wanna fussy cut this, think about that. I did kind of try to overlay this. You're also gonna wanna cut out the little ID window here by just tracing this on the back and cutting that out. But for orientation's sake, this is how I'm gonna lay mine out. Next, you're gonna need 2 card pocket pieces. Remember, this is all vinyl, all raw edge okay material. And if you wanna add a lining, what I like to do with like a fake lining for projects like this is I'll actually get heat transfer vinyl, which is used a lot with crickets, things like that. It's referred to as HTV a lot. And what you can do is you can actually cut those pieces out using the same templates and then just iron them onto the back of your vinyl, and now you don't have this like fluffy vinyl backing, you would just have the heat transfer vinyl. I'm not gonna do that today, but if you wanna take that extra step to make it really professional, you definitely can. I have my bag tag, which I'm gonna put on my pocket, which is why I have them all clipped together. And then you're gonna have 2 cuts for your key fob wallet snap tab. And then you're gonna have 1 cut of clear vinyl or mesh. This is gonna be for that ID window. Then you're gonna have a piece of vinyl. This is the inner body. This is just gonna kind of cover some of the back of this vinyl on the other side, on the inside. I have 1 small cut here of vinyl for my D-ring. I have my zipper. The zipper tape is about 5 inches long. And then I have 2 small cuts of vinyl, which are gonna be zipper ends. Then 1 cut for your zipper pocket, which is gonna go on the back. It's gonna go like over here. Isn't that pretty? That's gonna be fun. And then I have 2 cuts of vinyl for my wristlet strap. So like for that key fob bit. Here's the rest of the hardware I'll be using. Since I'm doing that kind of key fob wristlet, I have a little key fob clamp. I think that's what it's called, but this is just gonna clamp on the end. I'm gonna show you how to do that. I have a 1/2 inch wide D-ring for the D-ring connector. Totally optional if you don't want to add a wristless to it. You just want it to be like a little wallet that you don't dangle around, then that's fine. And then I have my zipper pull, and I want to mention that I am using a number 3 zipper today. The pattern does call for a number 5, but with little wallets like this, I try to use up my number 3 zipper tape. So it's number 3 zipper tape and a number 3 zipper pull. All right, so let's go over all the tools and things that I found helpful today. First, the thread I'm using is a Tex 45 weight thread. This is from Saya Swag. This is gonna go through the needle. In the bobbin, I have a Gutermann polyester thread. I get that from Joann's. A Schmetz 8012 Microtex needle. A X-Acto knife is really helpful for cutting out that ID window. Not necessary, but if you have one, it's going to make a cleaner cut for that. I do suggest you have some Beacon 3-in-1 glue. Specifically for me, I'm going to be using that with the key fob. So if you're not making the little wristlet strap, then you don't need it. We'll go over this in just a moment. And then we have a 1 inch by 6 inch ruler. I'm using both 1/4 inch and 1/8 of an inch wide double-sided tape today, specifically because I'm using that number 3 zipper. And so when I use a number 3 zipper tape, I like to use the really skinny double-sided tape. I have magnetic snap. Now my magnetic snap is a rivet backed one, so it has little rivet backs that I use with my rivet press. You could also use the prong backed ones, but this is a much smoother finish on the backside. And then I have a hole punch and my rivet press. The dies I'm gonna be using today I have a die set here for the key fob, which is like amazing. It's the way to make sure that those clamps never come out. And then I have my die set for the magnetic snap that I just told you about. A healthy supply of plastic clover clips. I have a stiletto and snips that I keep at the sewing machine at all time. And then I have an air erasing marker and a vinyl ink pen. So let's talk about this template for just a minute. This is from the Heartwood and Hide. It's called the Two-Tone Wrist Buddy. And this is really great for when you want a cute little wristlet strap that has different material on the front and back, which is what I'm doing today. And so this is going to be on the front. This will be on the back. We're going to fold them in, sew them together. I'll go through it, but the nice thing about this tool is that it's a common size for a 1 inch finished strap. So the size of this is wider. When we fold it in, the finished size will be 1 inch, and it has a fussy cutting window, which is great because when I was cutting out my little rainbow buddy here, I wanted to make sure that the color is gonna end up on the strap in the end. So I used that window to make sure like this is what I'm gonna see on my strap, which is so helpful. And then whenever we use this and we have to mark the midpoint line on the back, there's a handy dandy little slit here. And all you have to do is just lay this over and mark it. Isn't that great? I know, I love this. So that's what I'm using for the wristlet strap today. This is a really handy tool if you're gonna be making a lot of straps like that, because it's literally no thought required. So let's start with the window, the little clear window on this panel. And if you have this template here, make sure you hold on to it. We're gonna use it for marking other things later. So let's flip this to the back, the wrong side of your main panel, and let's grab your clear vinyl. And if you have a print on it, it's gonna go clear vinyl size down, and it's just gonna lay over it just like that. If you wanna use some double-sided tape here, you can. I think I'm actually just gonna use clips. Well, yeah, I'm just gonna use clips because I find that when I have to sew over the double-sided tape, I get a lot of loops on the back because it gets sticky. So I just want to see if this works. This clear vinyl is big enough that it can overextend the edges just fine. We can trim it down. So that's the nice thing. The clear vinyl here doesn't have to be exactly the size of the window. You actually want it to be quite a bit bigger. And then we just trim it down. So then we're gonna flip this right side up, make sure it is all nice and flat and looks good. And once you have it all set up, we're gonna take this to the sewing machine and we're going to top stitch along the outside of this rectangle at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I do suggest you leave the threads at the beginning and the end nice and long so we can tie them off on the back instead of having any back stitching marks. So now what we wanna do is we wanna just pull on the bobbin threads and use a stiletto if you have one. I'm just using this for now, but you wanna pull the top threads to the back. You don't wanna cut them. You just want to carefully pull on the bobbin thread to see a loop of the top thread and then pull the top thread to the back. And then once you have all 4 threads pulled to the back, just double them up and do like 3 knots. And then just give it a little trim with your scissors, and you don't have to worry about melting down those threads or anything. They should be fine. And then grab your scissors, and what we want to do is we just want to trim the clear vinyl down a little bit so it's not right up at the edge of our main panel. So it doesn't have to be a big cut, just trim it down so it's not overhanging these slanted edges and it's not right at the side of the main panel. You just don't want this to show in the end, that's all. Okay, there we go. Now our little window is all prepped. You can set this to the side. Okay, so before we do the top stitching detail, I'm going to add my bag tag to one of these card slot pockets. Now let me just show you. These are going to kind of overlay each other like that. So if they're different and you know which one you want on top, that's the one you want to put your bag tag on. If you put it on the bottom one, it's just going to cover it. So I'm just going to center this. I mean, just kind of eyeballing it, trying to keep it straight. And I'm going to grab some double-sided tape and just put some tape on the back of my bag tag. And then once I have it taped in place, I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch along all 4 edges of my tag at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I'm going to do what I just did where I leave the tails long and I'm just going to knot them off on the back side. All right, so now let's do some top stitching details. And let me just tell you that if you want to do edge coating, you're going to want to edge coat your pockets now. So I would edge coat, honestly, all edges of each of these pockets if I were edge coating everything. So for the top stitching detail, we're going to take both of our little card slot pockets here, and we're going to just top stitch along the top angle, the straight top edge, and then the other angle. So not the sides, but from one side, up the angle, up along the top, down to the other one. Do this for both of your card slot pockets. Don't go along the sides and the bottom yet. And then if you wanted to add another little bit of detail, you're going to go over here on the right where the window pocket is, along the angle, the side, and the angle. Just the short side here. So angle, straight, short side, angle, also at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. You can backstitch at the beginning and the end of each one of these, or you can leave the threads long and tie them off, whichever one you prefer. All right, so you see that it doesn't really serve any sort of a big purpose. It is really just a detail, but I do believe that it's a detail you should do. My opinion. It looks polished, it looks professional. It's nice. So now let's install our card slot. So take your main body panel and you're gonna lay it right side up with the ID window over here on the right. So just like this. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark a line that's 3/8 of an inch up from this bottom edge over here. So I'm gonna look over here on the left side and I'm gonna use my ruler and I'm only gonna go in, slightly, just like a couple inches or so. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but I am looking to make sure that my tick marks are on the 3/8 of an inch ticks down here. And I'm going to just carefully use some sort of a marking tool that I can erase later if I need to. This is a silvering pen. I can get a wet rag and just wipe it off. Only on vinyl though, so make sure it's vinyl if you're using it. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take my bottom card slot panel and I'm going to lay it so the bottom edge lines up with that 3/8 of an inch mark and the left edge lines up with the very left edge of my main panel. So just like this. If you'd like to use some double-sided tape along the bottom edge, you can definitely do that. Otherwise, just make sure it stays in place. Don't use glue here because you need to be able to access the pocket, right? So you don't want to like glue it all down and then you can't stick anything in it. So it's gonna be just like this. So the left side is lined up with the left side of the main panel. The bottom edge is lined up with that 3/8 of an inch mark. And now I'm gonna go to the sewing machine. I'm just gonna sew along this bottom edge. And I'm gonna sew on the sides and the straight bottom edge. This is gonna be all covered up in the end, so if you just wanna do the bottom edge, that's fine too. But I'm gonna go on the little diagonals here and the bottom edge, all at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, just top stitching it down, and I'm gonna back stitch at the beginning and the end. All right, once you have that bottom stitched in place, you're gonna grab the remaining card slot pocket that's gonna go on the top, and you're gonna line this up with the left side and the bottom edge of your main panel. Also that little diagonal bit. All of it's just gonna match up, and it should just cover that first pocket just like this. So I'm gonna use clips to clip along the bottom and over on the sides. Okay, now this one, you only wanna stitch along the right side. So make sure everything is lined up. If you need extra clips or anything, add them. I don't know if I can reach. Yeah, I can kind of reach. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start at the top right edge of my card slot pockets and I'm going to back stitch after the first couple stitches. And then I'm gonna go down the right side and also down the diagonal until I get to the very bottom edge of my card slot pocket and I'm gonna back stitch there. We're not sewing along the bottom, the angle, or the left side of our card slot pockets. Do all this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so once you have the right side sewed down, now we're gonna sew the left side down. The only side we're not sewing down is this bottom edge over here. So we're gonna go to the sewing machine and we're just gonna sew along that diagonal corner and the other side, back stitching at the beginning and the end, and I also like to back stitch at the top of each of the card slot pockets. Alrighty, and if you're using a vinyl that has a bit of a stretch to it, or you find that some things are kind of shifting a little bit and it's not all perfectly lined up, don't worry about it. We'll be able to clean this up later. You do want to be as precise as possible with these things, but it's not necessary for it to be perfect, for it to look perfect in the end. Okay, you can set this to the side for just a moment. So now we're gonna work on the snap tab, and I'm going to be doing it a little bit differently from the pattern. And I wanted to give you a quick tip if you have a hard time keeping material like this together. Actually, I think I'll do it with you guys. So let me just show you. I have a hard time keeping two exact small pieces like this together and top stitching around all of it without it getting kind of wonky. So what you can do instead is you can actually just cut out one of them using the pattern piece just like that. And I'm just gonna lay it over some of my vinyl, and I'm just gonna trim down my vinyl so that it's bigger than the original piece. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab some double-sided tape, and I'm gonna add a couple of strips of double-sided tape to the back of this. Now, I'm not attaching my magnetic snap yet because I'm gonna have it go through both layers because it has a rivet back. If you're using the magnets with the prongs, you're gonna wanna attach that before you top stitch these two panels together. So just think about that. So you can use glue here if you'd like. You can use the Beacon 3-in-1 glue or like a spray adhesive. I'm just gonna use tape. But what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take the paper off my double-sided tape, and I'm gonna lay my pattern cutout piece wrong sides together with my larger scrap piece, just like that. And now what I can do is I can go take this to the sewing machine, and I can top stitch along all the edges with the pattern cutout right side up. And that makes it so that I don't have to keep anything lined up. If anything shifts a little bit, it's fine because I'll just trim the excess down afterwards. So if you're using the rivet magnetic snap like I am, we can just skip that for now and add it after we top stitch. If you have to add the pronged ones, make sure it's already attached, and take this to the sewing machine and top stitch along all the edges at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I like to start on the short flat side and back stitch at the beginning and the end. Yeah, I'm really glad that I did it this way because this vinyl has some serious stretch to it. I mean, it's like, if you see the side, you can stretch it quite a bit. And if I would have tried to keep those two exact pieces together, there's no way they would have lined up. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut off the excess from the back piece, just pretty much tracing the edge of the top piece with my scissors. Okay, now I'm gonna attach my snap. So I'm going to take my template and I'm going to lay it over the top of my top stitched tab here. And there is a placement mark on the template, and I poked a hole in it using my pen, and I'm just gonna poke through that hole to transfer the mark to my tab. And then I'll grab my hole punch, and I will just punch a hole there where that mark is. And then since I'm installing the male snap, I need to get the bottom die, not this one. I need the bottom die that looks like the female snap, and then the top die that goes for the rivet part. I have a whole video going over this rivet press if you're interested, but this is something I use quite a bit. So I want the top stitched with the pretty blue thread to be the top, so I'm gonna insert my snap piece through the bottom where the bobbin thread is. There we go, and then I'll just snap this on, place it in my rivet press, push it down, and there we go, easy peasy. So I'm gonna do the little wristlet strap at the very end of this tutorial, so we're gonna skip that for now, but I do wanna prep my D-ring, so I have my little small cut of vinyl here. If you'd like to add extra detailing and just top stitch along both sides of this vinyl, you can. It's a very pretty look. If you're edge coating, go ahead and edge coat that. But I'm just gonna wrap this around my D-ring, and I'm gonna take this to the sewing machine, and I'm just gonna stitch right over this short edge of this just to hold it together. Okay, set this to the side for now. So now let's work on the zipper, and you wanna make sure you pay attention to this or else you're gonna end up with a zipper that's not the right size. So first let's put the zipper pull on the zipper tape. Number 3 zipper tape can be a little bit trickier than number 5, but not too bad. There we go. So let's grab some double-sided tape, and we're just gonna add a little piece of double-sided tape on the back of each of our little tiny zipper tabs here. We're not folding these or anything, they're just gonna be left raw. So once again, all material needs to be raw edge material. Now we're gonna grab our ruler, and we want the finished size with the zipper tabs to be 4 inches. So your zipper tape is longer than that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one of my zipper tabs, and I'm gonna just lay it right over my zipper tape. Just like that, okay? So that's where I'm gonna start. You can see the zipper tape's overhanging a little bit on the left, that's fine. So I'm gonna take my ruler and I'm gonna line up the very edge of my ruler with the very outer edge of that zipper. And then I'm gonna grab my other zipper tab. And if you need to move your zipper pull in, move it in. And I'm gonna line up the outer edge of my other zipper tab with the 4-inch tick mark on my ruler. And then just tape it right over the zipper teeth, just like that. So you see how it looks now? We have a good amount of overhang on one side, a little bit of overhang on the other. But if I were to just cut it down like this would be 4 inches. So just double check. I find that sometimes it kind of shrinks on me, so I'm gonna actually tape it so it's just a tad bit over the 4-inch mark. And again, it's the outer edge, not the inner edge. Okay, so now we're gonna take this to the sewing machine and we're gonna top stitch along the inner edges of these zipper tabs, both of them at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, going over the zipper tab and over your zipper teeth, back stitch at the beginning and the end. All right, once you have that top stitched on, pull the tab up a little bit and cut down the zipper tape so it's just a bit shorter than where your tab goes. So you see the back here? It doesn't extend all the way to the edge where the tab is, but it's not super close to the stitches either. Then pull the tab away, take a lighter, and just melt down the very edge of your zipper tape because zipper tape does tend to fray. So I'm gonna do this with both sides, being careful that I'm not cutting the tab, I'm only cutting the tape, and then pulling the tab away and melting down those unraveled edges. Now, with your little zipper laying right side up, and when the zipper closes, it goes towards the left. So you see zipper closes towards the left, opens towards the right. So we're gonna lay it right side up just like that. If you wanna use double-sided tape here, you can. I like to. And once again, I'm using the very skinny one, if I can find the end of it. And I'm gonna add some double-sided tape along the very bottom edge of my zipper tape, like right on the edge, nowhere near the zipper teeth. And now I'm gonna take the paper off the tape, and then I'm gonna take this little zipper pocket piece here, and with the zipper pocket right side up, we're just gonna lay it right over the bottom edge of our zipper tape, covering it about 1/4 of an inch or so. So that's where you want it to go. You're gonna have to eyeball this, and you want it close to the zipper teeth, but not so close that the zipper pull will catch on it. So it's just eyeball it, make sure it's straight. And once you're happy with it, we're gonna take this to the sewing machine and we're gonna just top stitch right along this edge of the zipper pocket at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, back stitching at the beginning and the end. All right, with your main panel laying right side up, you're gonna measure from the left side where the little card slot pockets are, and you're gonna measure over 3.5 inches. And one thing you might wanna do too is once you have a small line marked there at that 3.5 inch mark, you might wanna just fold this in half, and you can use the diagonals to help you, just to find the midpoint on that marked line. That will make it easier to center everything. And then take your tab, fold it in half on the short, straight edge, the one that does not have the magnetic snap on it, and then just mark the midpoint there as well. Now, using the midpoint and that straight 3.5 inch line, and then the midpoint on your tab, you're gonna lay your tab so it's the magnet part side down over the card slot pockets, and then centered on that line, just like this. You can use double-sided tape here if you'd like, or you can just line it up and use the lines at the sewing machine to help you make sure this is centered and straight. And we're gonna take this back to the sewing machine, and we're just gonna stitch right over the short edge here of our tab at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, back stitching at the beginning and the end to hold it down to the main panel. Okay, and I know you might be getting a little confused right now. Let me just show you. In the end, the ID and the slots are gonna fold in on each other like this with a little bit of gap in between, and then it's all gonna fold in half, and then this will wrap around, and this is how it's gonna look, right? Isn't that so cool? I love this little wallet, it's so sweet. All right, now we're gonna attach the zipper over the tab. So I'm doing things a little different than the pattern. I apologize if you're kind of confused right now. You were supposed to just glue this down, but I stitched it down. It is what it is. But if you didn't extend the drawn line all the way across your main panel, you can grab a ruler and just extend it now because you do want to see that whole line. And now I'm once again going to grab my 1/8 of an inch wide double-sided tape. You could also use glue here if you prefer. And I'm just going to line it right along the edge of the top of my zipper. Tape is optional too. You don't have to use tape or glue. You could just stitch this on. I find tape makes it easier. And then we're going to remove the paper. And we're going to lay our zipper pocket so it's right side down and it's over the tab and the card slot pocket over here on the left. So it's gonna look just like this, and you're gonna line up the edge of the zipper tape from top to bottom with that marked line. So it should be mostly reaching the sides of the main panel. It shouldn't be too high or too low. And this is why the tape makes it easier, because you don't have to fight it so much. Once you're happy with this, we're gonna take this to the sewing machine. We're gonna sew along the edge of the zipper tape at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, back stitching at the beginning and the end. Alrighty, once that's stitched in place, you're going to pull the zipper and the zipper pocket away and right side up, wrong side down, and clip along the top and bottom edges. And then flatten out those zipper tabs. It's the one place where you might have a little bit of bulk, is where those zipper tabs are, but you shouldn't have much. Just do your best to make sure everything's lined up. There we go. And so this is what it should look like right now. On the left, you have the card slot pockets. The tab is over it, zipper in the middle, zipper pocket laying right side up, ID window over here on the right. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch along the side angle, the bottom edge, and the other side angle of the zipper pocket at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, back stitching at the beginning and the end, but don't do the sides. Those will be sewn in later. We're just doing the bottom and the angles. Alrighty, this is looking great. Now we need to install the female part of the snap. So we're just going to take our template and make sure the ID window part is going over the ID window side and line it up as best you can. If you want, you can always grab a ruler and measure where these marks are and transfer them that way, but I'm just going to poke a dot through the placement for the snap, just like that. I'll grab my hole punch and just punch out where that hole is. And if you want to add a little piece of stabilizer here, you definitely can. Your vinyl should be plenty, but if you want to add more, you can. And then the female portion is going to go on the right side of the material. And then the snap portion, or the prongs, is going to go on the wrong side. So however you need to install that, that's how it looks. If you're doing the rivets like I am, just make sure you change out the bottom die with the bottom die that looks like the male end. And then lay your snap in, magnet side down, get it in place, and just press it. And there we go. So you can see, we're almost done, but once these go together and this goes around, this will snap in place. It's so cute. So cute. It's going to have more structure in just a minute. You're almost done. So now take your main body and lay it wrong side up so the ID window is now on the left. All right, now you want to measure in 3 inches from the right side and then grab a marking tool and make a little mark just like that. And then grab your D-ring if you're using it, and I'm going to use some double-sided tape with this, just a teeny tiny piece. And I'll put it on the very bottom of my D-ring. Take the paper off. And I'm going to have the right edge match up with that 3-inch mark. And I have the top overhanging by, let's see what, about 3/8 of an inch or so. So you don't want it too high up because it's going to just fold around like this. So you want it to be nice and tucked in there. So as close as you're comfortable with. So if you have to glue that, glue it. If you want to tape it, tape it. Don't stitch it. Don't stitch it down. Just, you need a way to hold it in place. And now you're going to mark 2 5/8 of an inch in from the left side on the back here where the ID window is and make a vertical line. And then you're going to grab your inner body piece, and on the wrong side you can add glue, you can add spray based, or you can add double-sided tape, which is what I'm doing. I'm just making sure my double-sided tape isn't going to be right along the edges because I don't want to have to sew over it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this inner piece with nice sticky back, and I'm going to line up the left edge with that vertical mark that's by my ID window, making sure the top and the bottom long edges match up with the top and the bottom long edges of the main panel. It should also cover your little D-ring over here. And just get it as flat as possible. Now it's not possible to get it super flat because you got a lot of bumpies from all the stuff we attached already. Just do your best. There we go. And you will have to use some sort of adhesive because we're not stitching this, we're not basting it. It just has to be stuck like this, and then it'll be stitched down in the final step. All right, so now let's finish this up. So I'm still looking at the wrong side of the main panel, and I'm going to fold right along that vertical line I made, just folding the ID pocket back and over that inner pocket piece. Do your best to make sure the top and the bottom edges line up so it's not crooked or anything. You need it nice and straight. And if you have a little bit of overhang here or there, don't worry about it. We'll clean it all up in the very end. And then we're going to take the card slot and we're going to fold that up as well. And honestly, you can fold it just so that the edge of the card slots lines up with the fold. So just like this. And then once again, make sure the top and bottom edges all line up. And you'll see the thickest seams are really right here at the bottom of our card slots because we have the zipper pocket and the card slots. So make sure you flatten that out really well. I like to add clips over on the folds too, even though we won't be sewing on the folds. I like to just I like to just get everything as neat and clipped as possible. All right, so now we're going to stitch down the long edges, the top and the bottom long edges. We're not stitching along the folds. So starting with the top edge, we're gonna top stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, back stitching at the beginning and the end, and also back stitch over each edge. So the edge of the vinyl pocket fold over, the edge of the card slot pocket fold over, back stitch along those edges to make sure that when you use this, it doesn't come undone. Okay, top edge is all done. Now we gotta do the same thing for the bottom edge. So make sure everything is lined up. Now we're gonna go to the sewing machine and we're gonna top stitch right along this bottom edge, just like we did the top edge, at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. You can tell that I am top stitching with the inside facing up so I can see everything. Just be mindful that your bobbin thread is gonna show on the right side of the bag. So if you need to think about that, think about it. Make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end, and also over any of the pressure points that can open up when you're using the wallet. Look at how cute this is. It's so darling. It's so sweet. And it's so simple. I mean, it's just a little thing. You know, it's just a little sweet thing. I love it. So when we open this up, you can see you can put 2 cards here. You have enough spots here to put an ID on the left. You can put some cash on the other side. It's really meant to just hold the bare minimum, but it is extremely cute. And how fun is that vinyl? Oh my gosh, I love it. So now let's go over the wristlet strap. So I'm gonna use this handy dandy little template here. I'm gonna lay it over the wrong side of my material. I'm gonna grab a marking tool and I'm just going to mark inside that line. I'm gonna do this on both of them. And this is just an easy way to mark the midpoint. You could, of course, always just use a ruler for this and measure in, but I mean, this is easy. There we go. Now I'm gonna grab some double-sided tape and I'm going to use my 1/4 inch wide double-sided tape and just lay it right over that marked line, centering the marked line underneath the tape. And do this for both of your pieces of material. And then take the paper off your tape and then fold the long edges back, wrong sides together to meet that midpoint line. And just add them into the tape. If you feel like the tape isn't enough to hold the material back, you can always grab clips and put clips along the fold as well to hold it all in place. All right, I'm gonna do this for both of my cuts of vinyl. All right, lots of tape. And now, once I have them both folded back like that, I'm gonna grab another piece of double-sided tape and just run it right over the center where the fold is on the back side here, so where the raw edge is. And this is going to be to hold these 2 pieces together. You can also just use clips. You don't have to use tape at all here if you don't want to. I just find it easier. And then back sides to back sides, I'm going to line up these 2 pieces of vinyl. And you could use this for quilt cotton or cork or any material really. It doesn't have to be vinyl because all the raw edges are going to be covered. Here we go. And so I see on the right side here, I have my design exactly where I wanted it because I used the fussy cutting part of that template, which is so smart. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch along all the edges, the long and the short edges, at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance to hold these 2 pieces together. All right, so now I'm going to do the key fob, and I think I'm going to try adding a little tag to this. I haven't done anything like this before, so let's see how that's going to work. I think it'll work pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do to prep is we're going to take our strap and pick which side you want to be the outside, which side you want to be the inside. I'm going to have, obviously, my rainbow vinyl on the outside. And I'm going to just fold this together, lining up the short edges. And I'm going to add a couple clips to the side. If you used all vinyl, this can be a little bulky. And now I'm actually going to grab this little tag here, and I'm going to lay that right on the short side as well and center it. I think this is going to be cool. And I'm going to add a clip to hold it in place. I can. It's very thick. And now I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm just going to baste along this edge at about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance to just hold all these layers together. Okay, now we're going to add the little key fob piece right over this, and it's going to be good. And if you're like, Jessica, everything was rainbow hardware, why didn't you use a rainbow hardware key fob? Because I don't have any, okay? I ran out. So we're going to use gold. So this is the key fob press that goes with the root press. There are handheld ones. I do not recommend them, but other people might. This is the only way I've been able to do key fobs where they don't rip out, okay? I had a tendency to make these. I tried making so many of these with different materials and they always just pulled out really easily, and this was the only way I could do it where they didn't. So the trick is stitch that down, and then You can see on this piece of hardware here, one side, I don't know if you can see, one side has these like pokey prongs that stick out and the other side is really smooth. On the side that's really smooth, I'm gonna add glue. I find that the prong side is fine, it doesn't really need it, but the smooth side does. And then I'm gonna have the smooth side go against where my tag is. I'm just gonna insert this in there and wrap it around, and it can be a tight fit if you have really thick vinyl like I do, but that's okay. Just shove it in there. If it's not a tight fit and you can kind of press it down with your fingers to make sure it doesn't move around. Then what we can do is we can just take this into the press and you just lay it in here and you just push it down. Those little flat plates with the rivet press, it puts enough pressure on it that it smushes it really well. Better than the handheld ones. Give it a really good press down, nice and flat. Oh yeah. And then see, you can tug on it as hard as you can. It's not going anywhere. It's totally stuck. How cool is that little, I love that. I'm just really excited about this little wristlet strap. It turned out perfect. So now all we have to do is just thread it on to the D-ring. How stinking adorable is that? Isn't that fun? Don't you want to take this somewhere? Honestly, yeah, I have a lot of ideas for this, so I hope you love making this as much as I do. It's so quick, so scrappy, so satisfying. And I did want to mention that if you had any little bits of overhang on your wallet here, you can trim them down. So don't feel like you're stuck if it's a little wonky. Just give it a good trim down. And I know I didn't give you cues throughout the video about when to do edge coating, but if you wanted to edge coat the sides of this, you definitely could. Okay. I mean, how stinking cute is this? Pattern placement. Look at my little baby right there. Look how cute that is. And then this light pink just offsets it perfectly. And then, again, the pattern placement. Like I said, I wanted this like rainbow bubble steam, whatever it's called, you know, like, I don't know what it's called. I wanted that to be featured on this strap, and it is. And then the little tag here is so perfect. And then we open it up and just, once again, look at this. Isn't this cheerful and just gorgeous? Such a fun, scrappy project. So this is another one of those things where, like, let's say you just made a big bag for someone and you used a lot of vinyl and, you know, it's a big labor of love, but you want to add a little something to go with it. Or like a Mommy and Me project, you know, where it's like you made a big bag for somebody and then they have a little kiddo and you want to make them a matching, useful little thing to go with it. This is perfect for that. Mother's Day. Oh my gosh. If I had my big mama bag and then I had one of these for Newton and one of these for Mila, like, perfect, right? How cute is that? Oh, I should do that. So I hope you enjoyed sewing with me today. If you whip one of these up using the tutorial, please let me know. And if you post it on social media and you want to tag me, I'm OklaRoots everywhere. Make sure you also tag Sewgnar or have the Instagram and Facebook information down below. And yeah, if you make them, I want to see them because I can make 1,000 more of these, honestly. These are really fun to make. I hope you're having a great day. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Get out there and make something. Bye, guys.